Welcome to the Canadian Food Podcast, where we explore the foods that made us and all the drama that comes with them. My name is Victoria Grondet, and I am a food writer, chef, and someone who had to switch therapists because I kept lying about my feelings. I'm fine. I am doing great.
Good to know. I'm Juan Palma. I love to cook, but mainly eat. I love bonding with people through food, which means I'll eat just about anything in the name of experiencing something new. As a true foodie, I believe anything is edible if you just believe in yourself. Today, on the season finale, we're going to talk about chips and try out 3 different Canadian flavors: ketchup, dill pickle chips, and all dressed.
Absolutely. We did make sure to get all of those chips from completely Canadian companies, and along the way found some really interesting stuff to talk about. So we'll get the opportunity to look at Yum Yum and their questionable mascot choices before checking out the struggles Coverbridge experienced with its corporate identity. Right after that, we'll quickly look into Hard Bite's fight for a spot in the chip aisle, and then I'm going to let you guys know why processed foods are the best thing that ever happened to us. At the very end of it all, we're going to take a few minutes to design our very own bag of chips. This is easily, by far, the crunchiest, spiciest episode of the season. And I can already tell you this is going to be a 5-part episode. So let's get it started. First, with the definition of what a chip is.
Well, according to the Merriam-Webster, a chip is a thin slice of white potato that has been cooked until crisp and then usually salted.
Yes, and there's lots of different flavors out there. Now, in general, what is your favorite chip flavor?
So this might sound really weird, but it's chicken.
It's okay, actually. So I know there's a specific region in Canada that's really obsessed with roasting chicken chips.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you found your people. I think there's room in this country for you. So that's fair.
Probably.
So mine actually. So what I like to do when I like something is I will send it to other people as a gift. So that way I look like a nice, generous person. But it's actually just my way of proving that I'm right about everything always. So a while back, I sent you a couple of bags of chips.
Yes.
And one of them was hot pot chips. Do you remember them?
I do remember them, yes. It was the Lay's ones, correct?
Yes.
So good. I've never had anything like that. They were so good.
So, like, hot pot in, like, the more traditional sense is, like, Sichuan style a little bit. It's spicy numbing. And I'm not going to say they were spicy. They were just flavorful.
Yes.
And so I get mine from TNT. I think you can get them online as well. They're just so good. There's like spicy, sweet, savory, a little bit numbing. They're just the perfect chip. So obviously, those are not the most accessible. I want to say something that's in the same arena. It's Kettle's Korean barbecue chips. They're sweet, spicy, salty, savory, and they make me so happy. I think it was a while back. Sometimes when I get bored, I Google a company and I Google what of their stuff is vegan.
Yeah.
And so I Googled Kettles and I was like, what chip flavors are vegan? And they were like Korean barbecue. And I was like, who?
Never even knew those existed.
The bag
is purple. So good. Oh my God. It's sold.
So good.
Sold.
They make me very happy. Now, people's favorite chip flavor is a massive source of debate. To me, it's once again like sport, where no one's really right, but everyone has an opinion.
Yes.
Now, one thing we can say without any doubt is that Canadians love chips. And they love weird flavors like ketchup.
Now, ketchup chips are a quintessential Canadian snack, invented by the Hostess Potato Chip Company in the 1970s. They are made using a mix of potato powder, garlic, onion, and spices, making every chip sweet, smoky, and a little acidic.
Now, I did do a little bit of research into Hostess, so they came up with some hits, but they also had some really funny flops. So there's a flavor, actually 3, by Hostess that came out, and they were so bad. It was grape, cherry, and orange.
You know what? I can get with orange. Orange doesn't sound that bad. Grape I would do straight out of curiosity. Cherry is just in the garbage. I would never try that.
So I have massive beef against anything that tastes like raisin, like artificially,
Yeah.
because it reminds me of the cough syrup I had as a kid. And TikTok would say it's medical trauma. I just don't. I cannot stand anything that tastes remotely like fake grapes. It physically makes me nauseous. So I just wish I could try them. Not the grape one, that's banned. But I want to try them to see if there was anything about them that was salty, or if they were just straight up sweet.
Yeah.
Like, I just have several questions. So, Hostess, I think, merged with Frito-Lay and then was taken off the market, but they did leave the beautiful legacy of ketchup chips, and that makes me so happy.
Oh, boy.
So, ketchup chips are actually quite similar, although obviously sweeter to salt and vinegar chips. To salt and vinegar chips.
Salt
so,
and vinegar.
just struggling. And salt and vinegar chips are a massive hit in Canada. So for years, the company Old Dutch tried really hard to market both of those flavors in Canada and in the US. And they really only took off in Canada. And that is actually super surprising to me. But in the US, they like really plain flavors. The most popular chip flavor in the US is just plain sea salt. But then there's also regional distinctions to be made. So, for example, marketers know that in Minnesota, people love dairy forward flavors like cheddar or sour cream and onion. Now, I think those are very tasty flavors. They would obviously always be a hit, especially with a nice beer. But those are not very experimental flavors.
Not at all.
In contrast, Canada is much bolder. So ketchup chips are really big, especially in Quebec and Manitoba. So today we got a bag of Quebec Yum Yum ketchup chips to try out. Are you ready
I
to
am
try
so
them?
ready. Yes, I have not even opened them. Oh my god, that smells so good. Okay,
Okay, salty.
cheers. I've
What?
never had these ever in my life.
Wait,
No,
ketchup chips?
I've had ketchup chips, just not
Okay,
this
I was
brand.
like, how dare you? But
I've
okay,
never had
yeah.
this brand. I've had Lay's ketchup chips, but I've never had that brand.
Yeah.
This is completely different in comparison to Lay's, because Lay's just has like a very distinct flavor. This is really, hold on, I want to say it in a good way. This is salty in a really good way.
Yeah, they're very salty. I don't think they're as vinegar forward as you
No.
would think. But then they're also very sweet. So for me, they're more sweet and salty than sweet and acidic in the way that most ketchup chips would be. But I really like them. So for me, I grew up eating these, and they're what you get in every Halloween bag ever. Like when you were a kid and you were doing your little haul at the end of the night, like the original unboxing, it was always Yum Yum chips. So they taste like my childhood, but to me, because they're not like kettle cooked and they're very thin and very light, they feel like they were meant to be eaten on a styrofoam plate.
Like these are party chips.
Like, yeah, not even like party chips.
Like the ones that it's like like little kids' birthday parties where they put them out on
Yeah,
a
a
bowl
little
or
kid's
plate.
birthday party. Like they're the chips you eat on like grass or like at a work party where like the budget is small.
Yeah.
Even though these are bomb, I really love them.
They're good.
I feel like they're connected to deep memories of like eating them off of a styrofoam plate.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do agree. But overall, they're really good. I like them a lot. So the ketchup chips we got today are from Yum Yum Chips, a third-generation Quebec-based and owned company that makes a ton of different types of chips, from the classic salted potato chip to the more experimental Viva vegetable chip in flavors like chili lime or sun-dried tomatoes and basil. That sounds fantastic.
The sun-dried tomato and basil I used to get as a kid. So I would take the ferry from Quebec to Lévis, which is the OG move. And I would do that to go to summer camp at Patrouille de Lévis. Like, only the OGs know. But in there, they would sell the Viva chips. And I thought I was a real grown-up for getting vegetable chips. And I thought I was being super healthy. And I was obsessed with them. So really, what I like about them is they're really not scared to go all in. So Yum Yum was the first company to sell salt and vinegar chips in Canada in 1966. Now, You have to distinguish. They were not the first people to create the flavor, but they were the first to dare sell them. The co-owner, Louis de Gonzague, is also credited with creating the all-dress flavor in his office in 1978. So they're the chip company I grew up with, and I love them. But they're not perfect. So if you grew up eating Yum Yum like I did, you have a vague idea in your head of what their logo used to be. I do vaguely remember getting a couple of them in my Halloween bag when I was a kid. Now, someone once described the old logo as the native version of one of the Campbell Soup kids. I think that's a pretty generous description. So in reality, especially if you get colored photos, it was a young boy with dark hair and yellow skin, like truly Simpson yellow, wearing a headband and feather on a bunch of different chip bags the company sold. There was also a couple of bags where you could see the boy, and then he was next to a teepee. So the logo was pulled during the 1990 Oka crisis, as it should have been, but then it came back in 2013 as a vintage throwback, and people were given cardboard cutouts of the logo and encouraged to take pictures of themselves with the cutout, dressed as a stereotype of a Canadian Indigenous person. And then when people came with critics, they tried to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's getting worse by the minute.
Oh boy.
As a defense, Yum Yum said it was a nod to the inventor of the potato chip, George Crumb, who was Indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
But he did not look like that.
Definitely not. No.
At all.
Mm-mm.
So George Crumb had, I guess, connections to the Mohawk people, but we also think, although it's never been, demonstrated, that he had roots to the African American community. So he did not look like the little boy at all. Now, the company obviously received a ton of backlash, and the logo was pulled once again.
Of course.
So this was not great. This was very obviously very bad. Like, the logo amplified really harmful stereotypes about Indigenous communities, and the marketing itself encouraged people to dress up as that character. So, my biggest issue with the whole controversy here is that they decided to bring back the logo after taking it off the market. I'm someone who thinks, genuinely, without a doubt, that people can learn from their mistakes and grow from them and do better. And I tried to keep an open mind. But companies cannot keep on repeating the same mistakes and expect the consumer to be cool with them. What do you think?
I definitely agree with you. I mean, overall, the logo itself is pretty stereotypical, and it's hard to, I guess, forgive a company for knowing that they messed up. They obviously pulled it. They know they messed up, but why bring it back? Why bring it back in 2013, especially in the fact that 2013 was pretty recent. It's only 10 years ago. But let's just, even then, most of us have kind of started waking up from all this stereotypical stuff and started realizing, like, hey, this isn't cool. We shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. It's a very bold move for a company, for that whole team to be like, what's a great idea? If we just brought this back, like. But
now we got to bring it back bigger with a costume for people to wear. Like, what? My thing here is that, and someone pointed that out online, and I think that was actually really smart of them. They took it out in the 1990s as a response to the Oka crisis. And then they brought it back for marketing purposes, which makes me think, and made the person think, I think I'm actually going to add it to the sources, that there was no genuine desire to learn and grow from that mistake in the 90s. And they just pulled it off because they thought it wasn't very PG of them and it was bad for their numbers. Instead of being like, I wonder why it's bad to put a kid with yellow skin, dress with a headband and feather, on a chip bag. Yeah. Like, I wonder why that's not cool. No, they were really like, oh, the Oka crisis happening, I guess we're no longer messing around with all that. But hey, it's going to be cute and vintage in 10 years or 20 years. That's not their best move.
It seems like it's always money driven.
Yes, 100%. And like nowadays, at least companies are good at hiding that it's money driven. You know,
Yeah.
they were really not faking it. So now I think the current Yum Yum mascot, it changes a little bit, but I think it's the potato. And I feel like that's the mascot they should take further. So my vision is I want them to make a potato that's really, really big and chunky and nubby and tired. And like have it put on a hoodie and a beanie and just like vibe. You know, kind of like Gudetama, but as a potato chip mascot. What do you think?
They should, yes, I like that idea. They should just use Mr. Potato Head and just, that's it, just roll with it, you know? That's obviously, no, that's, I'm just joking. Heck no.
Well, no, but they would get sued for copyright infringement so quickly.
Oh,
But
I
I'm
know,
just
yeah.
thinking, like, you know, sometimes companies try too hard and it gets iconically bad. I
Yes.
feel like, Yum Yum, get in touch with me. They should lean into that and then I'll be voicing it. And it's just gonna be a potato carrying iced coffee and be like, oh, housing, hard. You know?
Yes.
It would be amazing. And then you just know that drink has oat milk in it. Like, it would be the perfect mascot.
I don't know how they're going to fit all that on a bag. How are they going to put this mascot on a bag? They're gonna have like writing on it. It's like oat milk iced latte, and they're gonna have like an arrow pointing at it because the potatoes holding.
And then
like
there's gonna be no relationship to the all dressed bag of chips. Like there's nothing. There's nothing connecting the iced coffee and the actual chip company. But it would just be so good to have this sort of like, hello, fellow kids kind of energy.
How do you do, fellow kids? Yes.
Yes. That would make me so happy. So honestly, Yum Yum, get in touch with me. We have work to do. Also, I've been given a compliment once that I'm the exact height to be a mascot because mascots have to be really short.
Yes, it's true.
So I would be perfect for this.
It's true. Yes, they have to be short. Oh my god, that's so funny.
I got hired at a toy store and they didn't tell me until I got hired, but one of the reasons why they hired me was that I was the perfect height to be the mascot.
Oh boy. Yeah, Yum Yums, get in touch with her, please.
Yeah, honestly, I was born for this. I'm gonna be Spud. We can do this. Now,
that's the perfect name.
True?
It's Spud.
I know. So I know it's been used a little bit. People have also done the name like Spudnik.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. Spudney, kind of like Sydney.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was gonna say Spuddy.
Spuddy. That would be really good. Again, I can be like really fake friendly.
Yes.
That would be nice.
You know, actually, maybe, yes, a Spuddy would work. But now I'm thinking about it. What if they just called him like Spudlord?
Spudlord.
Yes,
I mean,
it
you
just
also
sounds
have to think
weird.
how it translates in French, because like
Spoudlard.
I don't know. It sounds like Hogwarts. Like in French, we call it Poudlard.
Oh, really?
But I like Spuddy because I like Poudlard. It sounds pretty cool. But like Spudlard is not the vibe. However, Spuddy, and then your uncle calls it Spuddy. That would be iconic.
That would be a great commercial, actually, to represent. Yes.
Honestly,
that would be good.
Yum
Good
Yum.
idea. Yeah.
I can do it in both languages. I'm the perfect woman for you.
That's
Now-
true.
True chip fanatics know there's more than one way to fry a potato. That's not like a saying or anything. It's just the tea.
It's the truth.
Today, we got the classic fried chip, but we also have the kettle chip. So, do you know how a kettle chip is made?
Yeah, actually, back in Florida, they have this like annual fair where they make like both chips and popcorn. So they make both the kettle chips and the kettle cooked popcorn. So it's essentially just made in a kettle. I'm not sure if many people know what that is. It's just a big old pot where they just cook those chips in like specific batches. But that's what I know about kettle chips.
That they're cooked in a kettle?
Yes.
I mean, honestly, Florida really educated you on that one.
Right? Oh
They
my
taught
god.
you that kettle chips were cooked in the kettle. So, actually, they're cooked, I think, in the same regular fryers. I'm not sure. I have to confirm that. But the difference is that they're made by... Actually, they are being batch cooked. So I guess Florida did you right. But they're cooked at a lower temperature and for a longer period of time than regular potatoes, which results in a thicker chip and a harder bite. So now I have a very controversial but important question for you. So if you had to pick for the rest of your life between regular chips and kettle cooked, which one would you pick?
Kettle cooked. 100%. I have always been a fan of kettle cooked chips in comparison to regular chips. It's a texture thing. I love the crunch of kettle cooked chips.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree 100%. There's something about kettle cooked, and also I would have to lose my hot pot chips, but I would keep my kettled Korean barbecue chips. So for me, it's an easy choice because I'm a big texture person as well, and there's something about the dissolving tendencies of a regular potato chip that stops you at some point. And there's a lot of obviously snacks in this podcast where I said like I'm gonna eat one and I'm good. Chips, I will never let go.
Yeah.
I am finishing the bag. I portion out in a bowl, or like my family, they like to buy mini bags because they're like it's not as eco-friendly. It's not as like I guess like smart budget wise. But that way we can say we're eating one bag. Yeah. It's a small bag. Yeah. So for me, kettle chips, it's really there's no restraint. So they're definitely the best one. Now, how do you feel about baked chips?
Oh, they're actually pretty good in my opinion. I remember back in high school they were like a really big thing. At least at that time,
yes.
Like they were really popular having baked chips. At least in high school,
they were really big for like 5 minutes because people were like they're healthier.
Yeah,
and I remember I fought with so many people so many times. So I don't really hate them. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like, if I had to pick between having like a small bag of Subway kettle chips and a small bag of Subway Lay's baked chips, I would obviously do kettle.
Yeah.
Because there's something about an unfinished, like I guess not sinful, but indulgent experience that just ticks me off. For me, it's like if I get to pick between full fat ice cream and half reduced fat ice cream.
Skim milk ice cream. God.
Yeah, fucking skim milk.
Ew.
I would much rather have a lot less of the full fat and move on with my life than feel like, oh, it's almost the same thing, but it's not, Becky. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So for me, I guess actually I probably have a lot of beef against baked chips. I don't think I like them. I think they're tied to diet culture and I want to burn them. But that's just me.
You know, that's actually, yeah, you're right. They are tied to diet culture, and I think it's a little weird to assume that just because you eat baked chips, you're going to be healthier. I feel like that's just marketing, and you know, it doesn't really explain further to people that aren't too knowledgeable about caloric consumption or any of that sort of stuff, you know. Like, they just think, oh, it's healthy, let me just eat as much as I want. No, that's not how that
for me,
works.
it's like, you can have anything you want if you're eating it in smart portions, but like, this morning I was at a grocery store buying oat milk, because we know who I am, and I look exactly like what you think I buy. And so I was at the store buying barista oat milk for my espresso machine, because I wear a septum. And I walked in through the healthy food aisle, because that's where all the vegetarian snacks are, because I look exactly like what you think I buy. And there was this sort of almond butter chocolate snack, and it said on the packaging, snacking without guilt. And I wanted to burn that fucking bag. Because I was like, there should not be any moral value tied to your food. Yeah. So yeah, that just ticked me off. That's why I'm not a big chip person, and I hope they all burn in hell, but that craze has sort of passed. Yeah. So now, today, the chips we got are kettle, because, you know, we're in the right. And we picked kettle chips of a very, very specific flavor. Dill pickle. Oof. Now, once again, like everything else, I have feelings about that. So, it's going to sound huge. It's a huge confession. I don't like dill pickle chips. Because
what a shame.
I don't like dill, and I don't like pickles.
What a shame.
But, my God, a lot of people do actually love them.
Right
so,
here.
Old Dutch once confirmed that their third most popular flavor is dill pickle. It's actually really big in both Western Canada and the Maritimes. So, I like that Quebec and Ontario are not claiming ownership to this, because neither am I. But Really, people feel strong about them and in the best way. So, Stephen Harper, who served as the 22nd Prime Minister of Canada, was quoted as saying he missed old Dutch pickle chips and that they were the first thing he bought whenever he headed home to Calgary for a visit. So, I guess if they're good enough for a Prime Minister, they should be good enough for us. Now, the ones we got today are a little bit different. They're creamy dill pickle chips. Are you ready to try them?
I am very ready to try these. I'm so excited.
I'm not here for this.
All right.
Okay. Salty.
Cheers. I feel like I already know your answer.
I think I'm actually going to bamboozle you. I think, oh my god, I like them, which is crazy, but I need to explain why.
Mm-hmm.
They remind me, so it was probably Lay's, obviously in Canada, because we like weird flavors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them that come out for a very short period of time, all the time. And when I was a kid, for a very short amount of time, maybe no more than 2 years, there was hamburger flavored chips. And they taste exactly like this. Like, it tastes like relish to me.
That sounds good.
They were really good. I think my childhood self, like my child self, tricked me now because I'm getting like childhood memories of hamburger chips, which is insane. But yeah, I like these, I think, because there's milk powder in them. So it cuts through all the dill. Because I did get a hit of dill pickle at some point, and I was a little bit offended.
Yes, because I knew this was gonna. I knew you were gonna say something about this. Because as soon as I bit into it, I was like, "There it is," and that's what she specifically said she didn't like. So I love them. At the very beginning, they have a very strong flavor of dill. I'm not sure if people have ever had just the dill by itself, or maybe just smelled it, like the herb. Like, it's pretty strong. You know, it's a pretty strong flavor once you actually like take it in. But these are good, in my opinion. And that dill flavor is for like maybe a second, and then after that, it's just pure potato. Pure potato with like some salt, in my opinion. I like them a lot because I feel like these would actually pair really well with a cheeseburger. You know how sometimes at restaurants, they like serve you they serve you chips with a hamburger sometimes. This would go fantastic with one of those.
So, see, I wrote it in my notes and I took it out because I was like, oh, I don't want him to get expired. I brought it up in a couple of episodes, but these would go amazingly with an OG Montreal smoked meat sandwich.
You know, yeah, I agree with that.
So, Montreal smoked meat sandwiches, when you go to the good spot, where they give you so much meat that you wonder if they have, like, they make no profits, or if, like, you got shitty meat, even though it's the best meat you've ever had. Those places, the OGs, they also give you a dill pickle on the side. Now, I don't eat it, because I'm a shitty
I always eat it.
But I like the idea of something, like, briny paired up with something fatty. So for me, it's like, there's something about a smoked meat sandwich that just calls for chips on the side. These would be the best ones for that.
Yeah, take out the actual pickle and just put those chips. These are really good.
Yes.
Would be fantastic with that. I completely agree with you.
Yes, and then it would take down Big Pickle, which makes me happy.
Oh, boy.
Now, we got those chips today from Covered Bridge, which is a company from New Brunswick founded by the Albright brothers with the express purpose of selling the farm's russet potatoes and promoting culinary tourism in the region. So what's really cool is when they founded a company, they knew they would actually promote it through culinary tourism. So the factory is built for visits.
Nice. I would so go. Instant like.
You know what? When I was reading about this, the first thing I did was Google how to get there.
Oh, boy.
So honestly, it's in my bucket list now. I have to go. Even though it's probably going to cost me all my savings to just take a plane and go.
Let's be completely honest here.
The visit is maybe $3 for 30 minutes. I don't care. I would go.
Let's be honest
here. And they were like, oh, we just get summer students into little costumes. I was like, yeah, I'm down. I want a summer student to talk to me.
See, let's be honest here. I feel like the way this is all going, eventually, we'll do one of those, like, how sometimes YouTubers or whoever,
Yeah.
they go out and like do some sort of like around the world type of thing, and it's like a
Hell
whole
yeah.
series or whatever. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where we're going to do episode 1, and we're going to like go and visit all these things and make a tour of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once we get to episode 6 for the chips, we're going to have to tour like all of Canada, go to the actual
Oh,
like
I have a
factories.
whole plan that is exactly what we're gonna do, and there needs to be a shot of me looking. So there's I'm deep into the world of chips, man. I read 3 books about it, but essentially there's a shoot and covered bridge, but not Old Dutch. I'm deep. They take out the defect chips by hand, whereas Old Dutch uses a scanner. There's a whole thing. It's really interesting. Not really, but
So
I'm deep.
these are handpicked.
And so
You're telling me these are handpicked?
handpicked. They're handpicked,
Man.
baby. So what I would do is I would position myself in that shoot, and I would not care about the defects. I know they're actually meant. I think they give them to animals as animal feed because it's before they are seasoned. I think that's a way to make it a little bit more like low waste conscious. But I don't care where you put me, even if it's the defects or the regular ones. I just want the chips as they go in. So that would be the shot we would get in our mini series. The intro shot would just be me, mouth open in front of the conveyor belt, and it would be amazing.
I'm so down to try one of their defect chips. Actually, I'm curious. What is it?
Right?
I'm curious.
So I think it's gonna happen. I feel like if we bribe that teenager, we could really get our way. Even if we're not being recorded by anybody, I feel like I could bribe a teenager with $20. So the cool thing about Covered Bridge is they use russet potatoes, which is actually really weird because most modern companies would try really hard to stay away from them, and most companies do not use russet potatoes. Can you guess why?
I was going over that and I was so curious. I'm like, there has to be a reason. It has to be maybe, let's go with the starchiness of it. That's the only thing that makes sense.
That's actually exactly it. So because a russet potato has a higher sugar content than the average chipping potato, which is what we call potatoes made for chips, chipping potato, it produces a darker chip. So this is actually a huge thing amongst the chippers, which are people who make potatoes for chipping. They spend so much time and so much energy to get potatoes that have no blemishes, no grain spots, nothing like it, because nowadays big companies like Frito-Lay's seek perfect white potatoes throughout when frying. They don't want dark potatoes, which I think it's insane.
That's racist.
Because potatoes are an organic product and they shouldn't look perfect. And it freaks me out a little bit that they spend this much time and energy doing like this perfect fake product when it's actually a completely organic product. But Coverbridge is like, nah, don't worry about it. We're actually going to embrace that and embrace the fact that they're darker. So on the bag of chips, they say, no, we use russet potatoes and it makes them darker and they are delicious. And I agree. Now, the company, and more specifically the founder, Ryan Albright, does pride itself on being a family company, something that's really deeply tied to its corporate identity. And that has caused a lot of problems.
Oh boy. I was so pumped for this company too, because they were starting off really good, and now okay, let's get into it.
This is why this episode is like 16
Yeah,
parts.
let's get into it.
So in 2013, the company voted to unionize, partly because the wages were really low. So the starting wage at Coverbridge was $10.30, whereas at Old Dutch it was $14.50.
What?
So
That's insulting.
I did double check at the time in New Brunswick, the wage, like the minimum wage, was 10 cents. And I was talking about it with my family, and someone was like, well, I mean, it's higher than minimum wage. And I was like, well, by 30 cents. So one employee came out publicly and reported receiving a single raise in 5 years. Can you guess what the amount of the raise was?
50 cents.
10 cents.
No way. Oh my God.
5 years. And that person worked every aspect of the supply chain and knew every aspect of the company and could replace anyone on any machine on any given day. 10
10
cents.
cents? That's insultingly low. I didn't want to guess that because I really wanted to give this company like the benefit of the doubt. Like they were doing so good. 10 cents?
We're going to bribe teenagers for them. But no, to me, that was really baffling. So I understood why they wanted to unionize. They really wanted to make their lives better. So now that's the part where we get a little crunchy spicy. So get your chips and get ready. During the process of coming up with the first collective agreement, Ryan Albright said the following, and it's been quoted several times, so it's actually what he said. So he said, "I will give to my employees the things they are looking for, but never in a union environment where I feel trapped to communicate to my employees on a daily basis for fear of unfair labor practice against myself and the company. For the employees who needed my help personally, I've been there and will not be able to be, as the union will deem me showing favoritism. The union wants you to feel like they're your friend, they're here for you. It's bullshit." How do you feel about that quote?
I feel like that was very defensive from him. Like he sounds very defensive in his statements. It's, you know how some companies always say things. I mean, this is literally what he's saying. Oh, we're a family.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not just about that. Yes. Like people need a living wage. Like family doesn't pay the bills all the time. You know, we need living wages. It's crazy to think that this guy is using personal help or like personal time with an employee as an excuse to pay lower wages. Like that's insulting. That is so insulting. Yeah, well, I helped you pay your house, so
it's like I really tried because it felt like this was something he needed to go over with a counselor, and not something he needed to do publicly to his employees. So I think sometimes when bosses see their company as a family, they sort of forget the strength and massive influence of the power dynamic. Because, like, you have to understand that if you're actually really comfortable with your boss, and like, I don't know, very easily, if you work someplace for 5 years, you want more than a 10-cent raise.
Yes.
And I think maybe, like, literally I had to reflect with this with my family because I was so bamboozled. And someone was like, well, the reality is he probably thinks he's really nice. And to be fair, in that region, the wages are really low. And a lot of people work in fishing industry or, like, agricultural stuff where the wages are really bad. And you have to work, like, 3 months on and then 6 months off.
Okay.
So he is providing stability to his employees. And so someone in my family, like, we have a lot of ties to New Brunswick, was like, well, the boss really probably thought he was nice because when an employee's car broke down, he probably came over and drove them to work. But the reality is, if that employee had been making $20 an hour, the car would have broken down and it would have had the money to fix it.
Yes.
So that's kind of the perspective. Or that person would have been able, I mean, I don't know if New Brunswick has, like, bus service or, like, taxis or anything. They would have been able to get themselves to work without the help of the employer. So I think perhaps the guy just really intertwined the company with himself and all the employees with, like, the family, which is really not a healthy, I guess, frame of mind to get. And it was probably really earth-shattering for him to see his employees being like, sure, we're a family, but we're also people who would like living wages. So now, this did not stop there. It sure did not. Ryan Albright then proceeded to shut the factory down twice to deliver the same speech to 2 different shifts of production workers right before a scheduled strike vote.
Damn.
I mean, he should have just paid for a lawyer, I'm just saying. So the Labor Board found that Albright and the company had violated 5 sections of the Labor and Employment Act, namely by, interfering with union representation, trying to intimidate employees from participating in the union, and trying to influence how they may vote in any vote.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say they were probably correct.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say if that's what he said publicly and we're able to quote him on this, I'm assuming he was really fighting dirty.
I can't blame him that much, though. I mean, hold on. I'm not taking a side. But
oh, you just got yourself in muddy water.
It's just I'm trying to like kind of think from his point of view or his perspective.
Yeah.
He clearly thinks that he's in the right. Like he firmly believes this. This is his reality. This is his world, and it's a little, I guess, bad for us to just say like you're completely wrong. He kind of is, but it's just I sympathize with him. Like I understand.
We
where he's
understand
coming
what he's coming from, and I know, like, basically, I got a lot of this very thankfully from the book Snack a Canadian History, which I will obviously link up. Don't worry about that. But I did read, and like people were happy there. And people had been working at a company for a very long time, and they liked the job and they liked the work. And so he wasn't completely delusional. People liked the company.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they didn't want more.
Of course, yeah.
Like, it's actually, to me, it is a good sign that they wanted to unionize because it says we like the company, we just want better at this company. Because nowadays, if a company was offering such low wages, people would just leave the second they got something better. So to think that the people stayed and tried to make it better for themselves and everybody who would come after them is actually a really good sign.
Yeah.
So now, after that, Albright returned to the negotiation table. I think he was actually forced. And he made a final offer that came with lower wages than what he had previously offered. So he was not thriving. So this triggered a 5-month-long strike, as it should have.
I take back what I said.
That finally came to an end in May 2016 when a collective agreement was finally reached. Oh my God, I was so stressed out for them. So like I was reading the articles from 2013 and I was stressed for them, even though it's been 10 years. So the collective agreement, which was valid for 3 years, brought higher wages, an allowance for boots and protective clothing, and provisions for job security and seniority. So I think I understand how this whole shit show, because let's call it what it is, I understand how it came to be. But I'm glad we at least got a resolution to it. Although I also think this was kind of a wake-up call that a lot of bosses are going to be getting in the next couple of years.
Yes.
Because as the relationship people have with their jobs start to be redefined, and workers start to ask for better treatment and higher wages, and they start to say, no, I'm not living to work, I'm working to live. I think bosses will have to come to terms with the fact and the truth that a job is a job, and pizza parties and family atmospheres are great, how fun, I love pepperoni, but those atmospheres can only thrive when they're combined with good wages and healthy boundaries. And like, as bosses sit around the world and try to grapple with all that, because apparently it's a really difficult concept to grapple with, as we've seen, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines and support a company that has a union.
I mean, we're lucky enough lately, I'm not sure if you heard, but Amazon is apparently unionizing. Yes. Yeah, that's good news, finally. We're getting somewhere. Hopefully this can actually push for other companies to follow along, because Amazon's a pretty big company. But regardless, I'm actually curious now. So if they came to an agreement and they brought higher wages, what was the downside, I guess? Did they get less hours, or did everything stay the same and they just got a little bit of higher wages, or did something had to be in the mix? Like there had to be something else. Like, yeah, sure, here's your higher wages, but also blank.
So okay, I'm gonna spill the tea here as is. I don't know if something bad came out of it, and I think that's a good thing. So I've actually truly taken a lot of time to inspect what the downsides of a union are. So the tea is you have to pay dues to the union.
Of course.
Because they're paid to represent you, and that takes work. And obviously the people who are fighting for like better wages are not going to do it for free. That makes sense. But yeah, that's about it. So if you're thinking as the head of the company, it's obviously more expensive for you to pay more money for your employees.
But it keeps them happy. Because, you mean, I'm assuming that these employees are obviously happier now if they're willing to
Well,
stay even
yeah.
further after this. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like, it seems good. Like,
So
now that
honestly, like the real truth is there's not really a negative to a unionized environment.
I don't see it yet, at least.
Like perhaps the company has less room to hire more people, but then again, the union is fighting for you to get better conditions, so they will at least make sure that the people who are there are well treated. So, am I saying I'm pro union? Yes. Am I saying unions are absolutely perfect? No, I'm saying I don't know everything about them.
No, yeah.
So I'll actually make sure to bring up more sources about unions, and I'm gonna try to find a nuanced article that's not like from biased party, and I'll make sure to include it, at the bottom of the references for this podcast, because that's actually something I want to research further as well. I honestly think that unions are mostly completely good, and that it's always a good sign when a company is fighting really hard against something by saying that, like, they're fighting for you and pretending to be your friend. Don't believe them.
Yeah.
Because that means the company has something to hide.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like this. I like it. To me, it feels a little bit Robin Hood when unions coming out. I don't know. I like them.
I agree.
So now, when you think Canadian chip flavors, ketchup is one that people often bring up. But I like to think that all dress is even bigger. So, as we said earlier, Louis de Gonzague created all dress chips in 1978, and they are a mix of tomato ketchup, barbecue sauce, and salt and vinegar flavors. So, what I like about this is how undeniably unhinged it is, which makes me think it is as Canadian as can be. There's just no other culture that would put together 3 different flavors into one sweet and sour, mind-melting bite.
I can attest to that. When I first started getting associated with more Canadians,
Yeah.
it was actually a shock to me when they started bringing up ketchup chips and all dressed. When they said all dressed, I was like, what is that? Because in America, I don't think all dressed is a popular flavor, and I don't think it even exists. We just consider it
does not.
barbecue. When I first tried all dressed, I was like, oh, this is just barbecue chips. And they're like, the Canadians were
It's like if barbecue took Adderall.
yes,
I think
yes. It's
what
more
it's
enhanced of a flavor. I agree. It's just the first reaction I had was like, oh, these are barbecue chips.
Yeah, I think it would be easy to associate them with barbecue, especially because they're sweet and savory and a little bit smoky, and because they have barbecue in them. But yeah, to me, it's like, I understand that, Caucasian people like me love blend stuff, but it's hard to understand how unhinged some Canadian flavors are. Like, are all dressed bagels, or all dressed chips, or pecan pumpkin mango butter tarts. We just like to go all in, or Hawaiian pizza. We're just crazy people.
Yeah.
So now, today, we are very lucky. We are very blessed. And we've got a bag of all dressed chips from Heartbite. So are you ready to try those?
Yes, I am.
Salty.
Cheers.
You look perplexed.
I feel like my mouth just went into like 5 different like journeys or something. Like
Yeah,
I can't.
It's incredibly confusing and very layered. At first I was like, oh shoot, I guess they're all vinegar. And then as I said that, I got the ketchup.
Yeah.
Which was like piggy writing off of salt and vinegar. And I was like, oh, I guess it's a bit. And then as I was thinking, it interrupted me and brought out barbecue.
The smokiness, yes, at the end.
Yes.
That's why I was like, wait, what's happening here?
There's a lot happening. And I will say, so, I mean, today is just all hot takes from me. I don't like salt and vinegar chips, but I like these. And can I take this platform, this moment, this mic to explain why I don't like salt and vinegar chips?
Go ahead.
It's a running theme in my life that I don't like deceit. And I have plenty of what TikTok would call childhood trauma, what a therapist would call dumb experiences. So when I was at parties as a kid, my family liked salt and vinegar chips, but they loved sea salt chips. So when I was at a
Oh
party,
my God.
I would go take a nap because I was a very tired child, and I would come back and I would see the chips and I would take one, and I was a child with very sensitive, like taste buds, and I would get burned with salt and vinegar.
Oh boy.
And I was so angry, and it's happened thousands of times. I just keep getting disappointed, and not even disappointed, attacked by salt and vinegar chips because I think they're regular sea salt. So I don't like vinegar chips. Like, I think as an adult, I now probably enjoy the flavor. I'm just too angry at all those negative memories of childhood parties where the plastic bowl was not what I thought it was. But in this context, I really like it because there's a lot of different flavors on top of it.
Actually, I want to agree with you on the salt and vinegar real quick. I used to not really like salt and vinegar. Lately, I'm starting to kind of come around. But there are some specific chips that are just too much vinegar and not enough salt.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just such an overpowering flavor. Like I can feel it in my nostrils, and those types I don't like that much. I'm not.
Oh yes,
really
the
big on
nostril chips. I actually know exactly what you're talking about.
God.
I don't like nostril chips either. These are actually pretty good. I think it has to do with I guess the composition of Hard Bites chips. The flavors are much more rich, but they're also milder, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like those.
Now, Hard Bite was actually founded in British Columbia in 1998 with the purpose of crafting all natural chips free of any artificial flavors or preservatives. To this day, they're a proudly Canadian, independent chip company, and they're really working hard to compete with massive companies like Frito-Lay's, who have the most insane marketing budget. And I believe it.
Just ridiculous. So Hardbite doesn't do weird contests or celebrity collaborations. Instead, they promote their Canadian-ness, which, as we know, is something I'm all for on this podcast, clearly.
Of course.
And then they also promote how natural and fresh their products are. And they always work really hard to come up with cool original flavors. So some of them that have come up with that are still available to this day are pepper jack, avocado lime, spicy dill pickle, which I have questions about, but might try. And then they have wild onion and yogurt, which I would eat drunk any day. And then the coolest sounding one, I think, is their parsnip chip that is chipotle raspberry flavored. So if you could try one, and I'm really saying one of those flavors, which one would it be?
Yeah, God, that's really hard.